Jess Eichens, and we are at the Hallberg Center for the Arts. We have Material Matters as our show that is showing here, and with COVID-19, it was kind of interesting putting on a show. We actually had the opportunity to do a 3D show online, so we had our very first virtual art show. The Hallberg Center for the Arts has been here for, 8-10 years now. We bought a building back in, I think it was 2012, and raised money to be able to fund the building. The Hallberg Family Foundation helped us fund the building. And so now we have this beautiful art center that we always want to have people come and see shows. Because of COVID, we did have to shut down the art center for a while. Fortunately, we're able to start up again, but we were able to do some interesting things to be able to continue showing people art. Rita Dungey is our current artist. Material Matters is what's showing, and we're actually going to interview Rita today and get some information on what it's like to be an artist during COVID-19. So welcome, Rita.
Thank you.
Welcome. We appreciate that you were able to come to the Art Center today, the Hallberg Center for the Arts, and tell us a little bit about you and your show. I know that this show initially was going to be in March, but because of COVID-19, we had to put it off. But we were able to get you in here in May, and tell us a little bit about yourself and the art show that we've got here.
Well, my pleasure, first of all, and my honor to be here at Hallberg Center for the Arts with my exhibit. And as you mentioned, there were some obstacles that cropped up for everyone. I don't know that there's anyone that's not been affected by COVID-19, but yes, the show was scheduled to be, I believe, mid-March to mid-April. And it was just before I was scheduled to deliver that I got the call that it was going to be canceled. Of course, the governor's order asked that we all stay home. But I was very pleased when I got the call to have a virtual exhibit. Actually, I was given the option of having a virtual exhibit or maybe postponing into 2021. But I thought, well, this might be the new way for a while for all art exhibits, so why not get on board with it? So I think Hallberg was very flexible in putting it all together, because I know that just hanging any show is a huge undertaking. And so not only did I eventually deliver the work and it was hung, but then of course all of you had to develop the whole platform and way of showing it in a 3D format. So I applaud your flexibility as well, and I'm very grateful to be the recipient of that and this space.
Tell us a little bit about your history. When did you start? Have you always done this kind of art?
No, I haven't. In fact, most of my adult career was as a clinical social worker. Oh. I worked in healthcare settings as an LICSW, which is a licensed independent clinical social worker. My last position was at children's hospitals and clinics in Minneapolis. I worked with children and families around a variety of issues. But I had an opportunity about 13, 14 years ago to make a change. I always dabbled in art, but I saw an opportunity to create art full-time. So I've been an artist for about 13, 14 years, and I primarily started painting acrylic paint on canvas. Though that's not what you'll be seeing here, I took a step outside of that traditional way of painting and
stepped outside of the box. Perfect.
Yes, yes. I decided to challenge myself to use some non-traditional materials and non-traditional ways of presenting the work. So the title of the exhibit, Material Matters, was an easy title because it's really very much about the materials The various pieces in the show incorporate a variety of materials, everything from canvas, but not just stretched canvas over stretcher bars, but remnant canvas. So many of the pieces, the piece behind me here is an old tarp, for instance, and some of these pieces on the side, I don't know if you can see them, they came from deconstructed tote bags, duffel bags, awnings. So I looked at the stuff and materials of everyday life, the kinds of things that are always around us, and ways that I might put them in a new context and give them a second life. You know, a lot of these things I think would have been destined for a landfill. Yep. Many of the pieces were sourced at thrift stores, garage sales, estate sales. And so it was fun to gather all of these materials and think of ways that I might repurpose them.
One of the pieces that I really enjoy is the books that you have done. Maybe we could go over there and take a look at those.
Yes, definitely. How about the book covers?
Okay.
Yeah. These are all book covers.
Oh, these are all book covers.
Yeah. I first became interested in using books for art making when I saw an exhibit in Chicago many, many years ago. And the artist painted on the front side of book covers, and she painted very delicate, realistic birds. And I was struck by using the cover of a book for that, but then, you know, it was easy to see that these book covers, many anyway, not all, are covered with either linen or cotton or some textured fabric, which is very much like canvas. And so it is glued onto cardboard, and so it's very much like a canvas. So I started noticing book covers and I started collecting them with the idea that I might paint on them. But I ended up continuing the collection to the point where I had bins and bins of book covers. I had a bin of reds and a bin of blues and greens, and of course the reds would range from pink, you know, orange, all the way to a deep burgundy. I was just taken by the variation of colors and textures, and then I became interested in the insides of the book covers as well. So,
sure, the different colors?
yes, these are all natural insides of book covers. I have not painted any of them. But as
well, and I love the texture that comes with it as well. So it's not just the colors, but it's also the texture and the patterns and.
Yeah, as I deconstructed books, I just found that there were many components that were interesting, either for their texture or their color. So these two are collaged book covers on panel. And I did not alter them, I just adhered them as is. I was also taken by the discoloration that naturally occurs when someone uses a book. So as I created a lot of these pieces, I wanted to keep something about the piece from its previous life.
Yeah, it's almost history.
Exactly, yeah.
Just seeing how stuff fades through time and how you can give it new life.
Yes, there are now, none of these show, but a lot of times people sign their name on the inside cover of the book, or they might make some notes or some scribbles. And
I think there's some pieces over here that might have something like that.
yes, those I think are interesting too, and I like to leave them. Now, here we are in the White Cube Gallery at Hallberg. In this room, I have all pieces that were created with books. Now here I have used, in some cases, the exterior of the book cover, and in some cases, the inside of the book cover.
I can see it where you used your red bin on this one and your blue bin on the next one.
Yeah, and maybe I can show you, I mean, what I did when I collected books over years, actually, is I would open them and I would pull out this inside. And you
And
can
throw it in the corner.
Yes, so I found that they could create sculpture as
Yeah.
well. And, you know, even these inside edges of the book, and if I were to look at book anatomy, I would, more closely, I'd be able to come up with the terms, because there are terms for all of these components. I just can't remember them all right now. But, you know, I primarily saved these book covers, and these, again, I'm not remembering the name, but these are part of the spine of a book. Again, I was fascinated with the texture and how these might be used in a collage.
Yeah.
And then I'll show some pieces later too. The linen book covers can be actually stripped off of the cardboard. And I've done some collages over here that are just, they're less textural than these pieces, because I just used the fabric linen cover and collaged them on these two pieces. And again, I did not paint these. These are all the natural colors of the book covers. In some cases, I used the front cover of the linen, and in some cases, the inside, where you can see a little bit of the cardboard sticks.
You didn't paint them, but you sure knew how to lay them out to make them look as attractive as they are.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
That in and of itself is much more artistic than I could ever be.
Thank you. Mostly I have painted, as I said, traditionally paint on stretch canvas. But I've also always done a little bit of mixed media, where I've collaged papers and materials. You know, there's no end really to what one can use as a collage material.
Now, in this piece, it looks like you did some shaping?
I did. I cut some shapes out of the linen cover, and then I did a wash on top of that after it was all adhered.
That's great.
Thank you. These four pieces here are primarily utilizing some of these spine components.
Love the texture on those.
Yeah, these are mixed media on panel, and these are some of the papers from the inside cover of the book. So I tried not to waste anything.
Yeah, I guess not. And even over here, you've got a lot of your book covers as well.
Yes, this piece is called Talking Leaves. And again, these are the stripped linen covers from books. And again, I was drawn to the texture and the variety of colors. And then in a book I read, David Abrams, The Spell of the Sensuous, there was a little section on how thousands of years ago, when cultures that didn't have a written language came in contact with cultures that did have a written language, they were mesmerized, and they saw it as such a mysterious thing that someone was looking down on, I don't know if it was a sheet of paper back then or if it was written on a leaf. I'm guessing maybe it was some writing or script or pictures on a leaf, because the culture without written language referred to those as talking leaves, because they would see the person speaking while looking at them, and so they had this sense that the leaves were somehow talking. So that prompted me to title this Talking Leaves. The way they're attached here on a wire with these, not paper clips, but
Clips.
yeah, they're clips, yeah, of stationery of some sort. I have this sense that they could blow like leaves. There's kind of an aerial quality to them. And, you know, I don't know, we don't know what words or messages these books contained at one time, but I still felt this was a way of honoring that they were books at one time. Maybe the messages that they once contained are still somewhere out there.
Yep. The energy is still with them, definitely.
Exactly. They've left an imprint somehow. Yeah. That's the mystery for us to figure out, perhaps.
Right. And I love the history of it, which I mentioned before. But also, you've got a piece on the other side of the gallery that also incorporates history with some collaging that happens. Can we go take a look at that over here? Sure. So I love these pieces because I look at them and I think about, you know, redecorating a very old house and finding newspapers and being like, oh, wow, this newspaper was from such and such a date, and reading an article in it. And these pieces kind of remind me of doing something like that. So tell us a little bit about these pieces, Rita.
Okay, well, these three pieces, these are technically called decollage. So collaging, of course, is applying papers or books. This, of course, did involve that process, but then it's called decollage or decollage because some of the paper is then stripped away. So I did a lot of that intentionally. These three pieces represent three different trips that I've taken. This one was Chile, this Paris, and this one Japan. So I tend to collect travel materials, posters, things that I pick up on the streets during my travels, including some things that fall off of poles or billboards or kiosks and things like that. So to me, all three are called urban archaeology. So it's urban archaeology 1, 2, and 3. They feel to me like there is a layering of time and events. While I didn't participate in a lot of the events that these posters were promoting, to me they represent something that did happen at a certain time. And because of the layering and then the peeling back, for me, it's like going through history or excavating in an archaeological way. And I've always been drawn to billboards and things that have a bit of a weathered look. So these were fun to make, and even when I paint, I tend to paint layers and then I sand or scrape, and I try to pull out something from an underlayer back up to the surface. And there's always a bit of a surprise element with these pieces too, because when you peel off some top layers, you don't really know how much adhering has taken place and just what's going to be revealed when you peel it back.
Right. And what great souvenirs from the travels that you've been on.
Yes.
That being said, you're willing to give up these souvenirs because as an artist, you need to make a living somehow. And all of these pieces, most of these pieces are for sale here at the Hallberg Center for the Arts.
Yes,
so,
that's right. Yeah, I think there are just a couple that aren't for sale.
So if anybody finds something that they fall in love with and have to have, they can always contact us here.
Exactly, yes.
So, and now you have a very whimsical piece here that I wanted to talk a little bit about. These are life preservers, you know, those beautiful orange ones that everybody loves to wear, that probably are not even appropriate to wear anymore, safe to wear anymore. Tell us how you decided to do this, Rita. This is so much fun.
If you find some, let me know.
Oh,
I got
okay.
these on eBay, and they're vintage these days.
Wow.
I think they might be from the 50s or 60s, and I don't know if they would pass muster today.
Right.
You know, today, you know, we called them life preservers or life vests. Now, personal flotation devices,
Yes.
PDFs.
PDFs.
Yeah, and they're much more streamlined. But anyway, these are 3 life vests. They might even be child size, I'm not sure. But I looked at them as potential substrates. They're not canvas per se, but they had a nice textural quality. And again, I decided to give them a new life by presenting them in a new way.
Yeah.
Making them into art. And the title for the piece is Keep Afloat. And again, that was easy because one of these life vests is actually, the label on it says, oh here.
Keep afloat.
Keep afloat, yes. And
Show that to the camera, Rita.
yeah, that would be on the inside of the life vest, I think.
It's even labeled.
Yeah. But I strung them together. I thought, you know, this is a way of showing the interconnectedness of all of us.
And I think all of us during this time of COVID-19 are trying to keep afloat, especially during this time.
Yes. You know, the term keep afloat, I think, is often used in the financial world, you know, but, you know, more generally, we all want to keep our heads above water in all of our ways of living and coping. So, yeah, I think just coincidentally, it has a little more meaning now, I think, than when I created it last fall. And it has, there are various options in displaying it too. It can be against a wall, you know, draped in various ways, but I kind of like the idea of
Having it free hanging.
having it free hanging, yes. So, yeah, like I said, I like to challenge the typical way of defining painting. To me, this is a painting, but it's also a sculpture. It's just a painting on a non-traditional substrate.
Once again, working outside the box.
Exactly.
Great. We didn't get to talk a whole lot about the giant canvas. Where did you find that giant canvas? And how difficult was it to paint something like that?
Well, I spread it out on a floor in my studio, and so I was able to walk on it and paint it that way. I wasn't sure when I was painting it how I would display it. Again, this is a piece that has multiple options, but I decided to hang it on a bar like this. You said canvas, you know, definitely it is canvas, but its previous life was as a tarp. And so I was drawn to the texture, the raw energy of it as a substrate, and you know, kind of the crude strength that it has. You know, it came with these ropes. It's got grommets, it's got some soiling and discoloration.
I've got a wall at home it would look beautiful on.
Thank you. So anyway, I decided, you know, this is worthy of another life too. I mean, normally tarps, you know, they cover a wood pile or they provide some type of shelter or protection. But I thought, I can paint on that too. And if it does end up covering a wood pile again at some point, it'll be a very unique wood pile in the neighborhood. So anyway, this is a piece that can be viewed from either side, and you know, it's color, texture, shapes and forms. Again, I call it a painting and also a sculpture.
That's great.
The pieces I have on either wall here, on either side of this tarp, again, are remnant pieces of canvas that came from totes or duffel bags or awnings. And I wanted to leave the raw energy, the frayed edges, the
that adds so much character to it.
Mm-hmm. These don't have grommets, but some other pieces have grommets and zippers, you know, from their life as a duffel bag. Again, challenging myself to think of a new way to bring these back into service and to give them a new aesthetic. This one is called Remnant 7. I think the first 10 pieces or so I just called Remnant 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But some later pieces that I created, last year, I gave some titles.
So Rita, tell me a little bit about these wood pieces. We're getting into sculpture again.
Yes, I'd love to. Well, these are scrap lumber, 2x4s, which a friend cut in regular sizes for me, and I decided to create art with these by gessoing the wood, and then I applied a concrete cement and
Gessoing the wood, that's a new term I haven't heard before.
Oh, gesso is a product, it's mostly used on canvas before you paint it.
Okay.
And it keeps the paint from bleeding through onto the backside of the canvas.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a barrier, but it also creates what's called tooth. It's something for the paint to grab onto.
Sure.
So I just couldn't pass up this pile of scrap lumber. The history intrigues me. I mean, of course, a tree starts with a seedling, an acorn or a seed and a seedling, and then, you know, it at full term might be used for lumber or furniture making or construction, but it's also used in art. But even when it has been used for construction or furniture, you know, rather than then being burned or put in a landfill, I thought about the potential of reusing it.
Yes, reduce, reuse, recycle, and you are big on the reusing. That's wonderful.
Exactly. And fortunately, that's becoming more common too. I've made a few pieces of recycled things that have truly washed up onto the shore of Lake Superior, for instance. And, you know, a lot of artists are making art out of plastic bottles or things like that. So it's well, probably for thousands of years, people have created art with whatever they had out of need, you know. Painted on a rock or painted on cardboard because they couldn't afford a canvas or whatever. So I certainly didn't invent painting on non-traditional materials, but it's a fun venture after having painted on, you know, stretched canvas for so long.
Yeah.
whole wall here, again, these are canvas remnants that were once tote bags or awnings or duffel bags. In these pieces here, I've collaged pieces onto a background. But again, I wanted to leave some of the elements that suggested their previous life, like grommets. I added a few in some cases of my own. These two pieces here were once duffel bags, so they have the zippers here and the grommets. This one is called Touch of Autumn. I was primarily influenced by the colors that I ended up choosing for the piece. This one, Emergence. This one I painted when I was in Santa Fe last year.
Oh yeah, I can see the Santa Fe colors in that, definitely.
Yes, and this one, Bedrock, because there's the suggestion of rocks. Titling pieces for me is always a challenge, but it's a challenge that I like. Generally, I like to title things with a positive title. But in some cases, it's just something that kind of comes through in the piece so that I can identify it easily. Well, I have a studio in an arts building in Northeast Minneapolis, the Northrop King building. I have a studio in my home as well. I painted primarily in my home studio for many, many years, but maybe 5-6 years ago, I had an opportunity to share space with a glass artist. Actually, she's from Stacy, Shoshana Englard. So we share a studio in the Northrop King building, and there are many art events in the Northeast Arts District. There's Art-A-Whirl in the spring, Art Attack in the fall. These are two big weekend events every year, and then the first Thursday of every month, many of the studios are open, and many of us are open on Saturday afternoons. So anyway, I show a lot of my work right in my studio, but I've exhibited also at Banfield Lock Center for the Arts, had a couple of shows in Japan. I've entered a number of shows at various art centers, Artistry, which used to be called Bloomington Center for the Arts, Hopkins Center for the Arts. These are group shows, juried shows where I've had a piece or two in the exhibit. I've exhibited in hospitals. I've exhibited in churches. I've exhibited in libraries, a variety of places, yeah.
With COVID-19, Rita, was Art-A-Whirl able to happen, or is the Open Thursdays still happening? How's the art world working with that?
Unfortunately, Art-A-Whirl was not able to happen as it normally happens. Art-A-Whirl is sponsored by Northeast Minneapolis Art Association, and it covers all of the Northeast Minneapolis area, and there are probably 20 or 30 art buildings. So so everybody's open for Art-A-Whirl, and there are shuttles that go among the buildings, there are food trucks and music, and it's shoulder to shoulder people.
Yeah, it's a very fun event.
It is, and so unfortunately that we just couldn't do that this year, but NEMA really stepped up to the plate and helped people develop more of an online presence, including online sales if they wanted to do that.
That's great.
Yeah, so that was really good. We're hoping that Art Attack, which is held in November, might still take place, but we just have to see how things unfold. First Thursdays are also currently not being held. many people who moved their studio operations home during the stay-at-home order are now slowly moving back to their studios and are advertising that they're open by appointment or on Saturday afternoon, noon to 4, following precautions. But it's a gradual revival. Not everybody is back there yet or open, but we're hopeful.
We usually have songwriters in the round here every 2 months, where we have local songwriters who come and perform on the stage here, and we've had to not have that for a number of months. We're hoping to do it in July, on July 30th, and we're hoping that we can, if we can't do it indoors, have an outdoor.
Yes, it seems like you do have the space.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yep.
I hope that works out.
So Rita, I just wanted to thank you one more time for coming here and doing the interview, as well as, you know, showing your art, allowing us to do our first, I'm spacing it.
My first too, so.
Yes, virtual,
Yes.
our first virtual art show.
Yes, it's been fun. It's been new and it's been exciting, and
And that can be seen on the Wyoming Area Creative Arts Community website, wyomingcreativearts.org. It'll be up there for a while. And you have the opportunity also to purchase Rita's art. This show was sponsored by Greg Lecker, who is also a
Exactly.
fantastic artist who we've had here at the Art Center before.
Yes.
And,
I would like to publicly thank Greg Lecker for generously donating. He is my official sponsor for this event, and I am really appreciative of his generosity. Greg is a friend, he's a fellow artist, he's a fantastic artist. Greg Lecker, LECKER.com, you can see his work. I saw his exhibit here at Hallberg. It was amazing.
Rita, what is your website?
My website is simply Rita Dungey, RITADUNGEY.com. You can see a wider variety of my work if you go to my website. And so I would like to just thank Hallberg again for the opportunity to show my work here. I'd like to thank Wendy Whitner as well. She did the logo for the promotional materials. I think everybody's just really done a great job in pulling this together. So thank you, Hallberg, and I hope people will visit your website. I know that art centers rely a lot on memberships and donations and grants.
And volunteers.
And
yeah, 'cause
volunteers,
they're all
yeah.
volunteer run here, so.
That's
It's always
amazing.
nice to get extra volunteers to come help out and put up the shows or be here to staff or, so.
Yeah, and to all other artists, I would say just keep making art. I think in this time of COVID, you know, we are all affected in some way, but in a way I see it as a call to come forward, think about new creative ways to get our work out there, because you know, this, for instance, is art fair season. They're not happening. I think artists, visual artists, commonly rely on these ritual gatherings, and these gatherings are very changed right now, if they exist at all. So I think it calls on us to be even more creative or creative in finding ways to connect with people and get our work out there.